the movies you celebrated, the way you showed us, the path you made us choose. And that's why this filmography and that's why KANGUVA, we have to come back to you to give you a larger entertainment, a bigger entertainment, and this will be a very different, another new experience film.
As we are almost near to the end of 2024, we have had the chance to enjoy some of the year's most exciting releases. And honestly, it's been a mixed bag. This year's cinematic journey had its ups and downs. While some films were a pleasant surprise, but while others, well, let's just say they boasted big promises but failed to deliver the punch. A number of highly anticipated films had hit the theatres with enormous expectations, including several that were there as pan-Indian releases, aiming to cater to the audiences across the nation. But unfortunately, many of these films turned out to be nothing more than the same old formulaic narratives, missing the mark when it came to substance. These films promised us a larger-than-life experience, promising to break boundaries, redefining genres, or offer something new. Yet, as they unfolded on screen, they felt more like an exhausting ride, leaving audiences with a headache rather than a sense of awe. The hype surrounding these releases was palpable, but the execution just didn't live up to the anticipation. You could almost feel the collective disappointment in the theatre as hopes were crumbled, and all that was left was the realization that what was meant to be the great cinematic experience ended up as a letdown. It's never easy when expectations are sky high and the films just don't follow through. The idea of a grand spectacle is always appealing, but it's the heart, the story, and the craft behind it that ultimately makes the difference. Unfortunately, this year, too many of these films relied too heavily on the flashy visuals and the star power, neglecting the crucial elements that make a film truly memorable. So hello everyone. Today on Cine Samvad, we are diving into some of the biggest disappointments of 2024, and to be precise, the films that were meant to be blockbusters as they were highly anticipated, but in the end left us questioning whether they were worth the wait. So stay tuned as we dissect some of these films and explore that what could have been great but ultimately fell flat. First on this list is Martin. Martin was totally a cinematic misfire that falters on nearly every front. The storyline of the film was lackluster, leaving nothing little to engage the audience. The dialogues of the movie just feel so disconnected and uninspired and made no sense at all. At times in the movie, I felt as if the filmmakers just abandoned and given up on the screenplay altogether. All in all, the movie absolutely made no sense. The makers certainly had the grand ambitions behind its production, but sadly the film struggles to make sense and was disappointing and poor. KANGUVA. One question I'd love to ask the makers is, why did the film have to be so unnecessarily loud? Honestly, the movie was released riding with high expectations, but what we got was something that no one was prepared to endure in the theatre. It feels like the filmmakers didn't have a solid script to pull this off and to really back up this period action film. And to mention that the present day narrative in the film felt particularly questionable. The concept and the screenplay of the film was below expectations, and the characters lacked the depth and care they deserved. With that said, it seems the makers seems confident in their vision and they might even be planning a sequel as well. BADE MIYAN CHHOTE MIYAN. The film leverages the iconic title to introduce a new age action jodi with this film. But unfortunately, the director, who is known for making impressive action films, falls short in delivering a compelling story here. Even a talented actor like Prithviraj sir couldn't escape the lackluster performances, which was really disappointing. The movie, aiming to be the ultimate and the biggest action entertainer, the film suffers from a weak screenplay and it relies heavily on the same reheated Bollywood cliches. Overall, the movie was a significant letdown in terms of audience expectations and failed to make a notable impact at the box office as well. GUNTUR KAARAM. Honestly, this film runs on the same old formula, packed with countless cringeworthy moments on a whole. While Mahesh Babu always delivers with his signature style, but the story and the narrative of the movie are weighed down by every commercial element imaginable. There was unnecessary comedy, the emotional scenes that fall flat, there were fight sequences and the songs that have little to no impact. What's most disappointing in the film is that the core emotion that the film tries to convey was the bond between a mother and her son, and movie just fails to resonate with that emotion as well. Indian 2. It truly breaks my heart to see a director with so much caliber have now stuck in the same old formula of his own movies and creating films that feel completely out of touch with the present times. I have never imagined that sitting through Shankar sir's movie would be so difficult for me. The film attempts to blend the same outdated 2000s narrative with a modern day setting, but it just doesn't work. I mean, it's honestly shocking to see such great talents come together only to deliver a tired and predictable story with a little conviction. Also, I don't believe that Indian 3 will be able to redeem Shankar sir's direction as well. Devara Part 1. This film too arrived with lot of high expectations, especially given the pressure on Junior NTR as it marked his first project after RRR, directed by SS Rajamouli sir. Unfortunately, the film turned out to be a testament of poor filmmaking, with a weak and disjointed storyline. The screenplay felt more like a collection of random events pieced together in the screenplay, rather than a cohesive narrative. Much like KANGUVA, the story might have looked promising on paper, but it failed to live up to expectations on screen. Neither the interval block nor the film's conclusion offers any real surprises. Instead, they leave the audience utterly confused. Ultimately, the movie, aiming to be a grand spectacle, falters on almost every front. Singham again. Despite having a big star-studded cast, massive budget, and a grand cop franchise at its disposal, this film still fails to deliver as a worthy sequel or an interesting addition to the franchise. The movie is primarily focused on grand action sequences with little to no substance in the storyline. It is overloaded with unnecessary cameos and forced references to the Ramayana elements, which only detract from the good cinematic experience. Honestly, this movie doesn't feel like a proper film. It was more like a collection of ad-like sequences strung together. I feel it was so dumb and nonsensical that instead of watching Singham again, you'd be better off rewatching the film Singham again to save yourself the trouble. Greatest of all time. Greatest of all time feels like a hodgepodge or a mixed bag of old Tamil action films and riddled with too many potholes. Some of the scenes in the movie were so over the top that they defy logic, leaving you questioning and probably scratch your head thinking what we have just watched. I think Vijay was the only saving grace of this film, as nearly every scene relies heavily on his fan base. And honestly, if it wasn't Thalapathy Vijay sir, this movie would have been a complete disaster. I actually expected better from the director, especially considering this film also suffers from a lack of a cohesive screenplay. So finally, that wraps up my list of few films that came with high anticipation before their release but sadly failed to meet the audience expectations. I'd love to hear your thoughts as well on this, so feel free to share your comments below on these films or any others you feel were disappointing despite all the hype surrounding them. Also, if you have liked this discussion, please show your support by hitting the like button and subscribing to the channel for more content ahead. Be sure to follow me on Instagram at CineSamvad for short reviews and cinematic insights. Thank you for watching. We'll meet in the next one. Cheers.